Imagine this for a second. You've worked for 40, maybe even 50 years. You've been saving a chunk of every single paycheck, dutifully paying your taxes, and just dreaming of the day you can finally retire, put your feet up, and breathe. But then, that day actually arrives, and a really harsh reality sets in. You realize your savings? They just aren't going to be enough.
Because let's face it, healthcare is overwhelmingly expensive right now. Housing costs just keep stubbornly climbing. And because of that, carefully planned nest eggs are being depleted way faster than anyone ever anticipated. These crushing everyday costs are literally forcing older Americans to abandon their retirement and go right back into the workforce, sometimes well into their 70s, just to keep the lights on.
So it really makes you wonder, right? Is the American dream of retirement slowly disappearing? Well, in today's Explainer, we're going to explore exactly why millions of Americans are struggling to retire comfortably. We'll break down the root causes of this crisis, and we'll look at whether the next generation is actually facing an even tougher future.
Part 1. The Old Playbook. What retirement was supposed to look like.
To really understand where we're at, we kind of have to look at where we came from. For decades, especially during the second half of the 20th century, retirement followed a remarkably simple, secure plan. Step 1, you graduate and get a stable job. Step 2, you work for about 40 years. Step 3, your company rewards you with a guaranteed pension. And finally, Step 4, you collect your Social Security and just relax. And you know what? This mid-century system actually worked. Companies carried the pension risk, housing was affordable on a single income, medical costs were way lower, and life felt genuinely secure. You put in the time, and the system took care of you. But over time, that whole model completely fractured.
Part 2. The fracture. Why retirement's becoming harder. Several massive, systemic factors collided all at once to shatter that traditional model. The very first big shift? The disappearance of the pension. Employers systematically started replacing guaranteed pensions with retirement savings accounts, like the 401k. So instead of the company carrying all the investment risk, that vulnerability got transferred directly onto you, the employee. Now workers have to navigate the stock market, save and invest completely on their own. And let's be real, not everyone earns enough to contribute consistently. Plus, a sudden market downturn right before you retire can literally wipe out a huge chunk of your life savings in a flash.
And then we have this pretty staggering number, 25 to 30. That is the number of years a 65-year-old retiree might now need to fund. Because Americans are living longer, which is fantastic news. We all want longer, healthier lives, for sure. But purely from a math perspective, it means your retirement savings have to stretch much, much further. Funding 2 to 3 decades of life with absolutely zero incoming salary, that is a colossal financial challenge that previous generations simply didn't have to worry about to this extent.
And on top of that longevity, healthcare costs just continue to skyrocket. Even if you have Medicare, you are not totally off the hook. Retirees still face a mountain of out-of-pocket expenses. We're talking insurance premiums, pricey prescription drugs, long-term care facilities, and sudden, unexpected medical emergencies. Healthcare has rapidly evolved into one of the absolute biggest, most unpredictable costs of getting older.
And finally, we have the silent thief, inflation. It is constantly chipping away at your purchasing power. And I'm just talking about the basics here. Groceries, utilities, home insurance, property taxes. Everyday expenses are undeniably more expensive today than they were just a few years ago. So that specific dollar amount you thought was, quote-unquote, enough when you made your retirement spreadsheet 10 years ago, it just doesn't cover the daily living costs of today.
Part 3. The reality. The numbers behind the crisis.
The grim reality here is that millions of households approaching their golden years have little to absolutely no retirement savings. They are falling dangerously short of what financial experts recommend, and a huge part of this problem is just a deep misunderstanding of Social Security. See, it was designed purely as a basic safety net. It was never intended to replace a person's full working income. For a lot of retirees, that monthly check only covers a fraction of their essential bills, and this is exactly why we are seeing older Americans forced to work part-time or even full-time way past traditional retirement age. Or, on the flip side, having to drastically and painfully cut their daily spending just to survive.
Part 4. The generational squeeze. The younger generation's challenge.
But listen, this isn't just an issue for older Americans. If we pivot and look at the younger generation, they are entering adulthood facing a compounding set of financial pressures right out of the gate. They are burdened with massive student loan debt, housing prices are historically high, rent is consuming an incredibly large share of their monthly income, and at the exact same time, wages simply haven't kept pace with these soaring living costs. Financial experts are always preaching, you got to start saving early, but when just covering today's difficult expenses leaves absolutely $0 at the end of the month, saving for an event 40 years in the future naturally becomes a much, much lower priority.
Part 5. The mitigation. Strategies for financial survival.
Okay, I know all this sounds incredibly heavy, but take a breath. Despite these massive systemic challenges, achieving a secure retirement is not impossible. You just need a new playbook. Financial planners recommend some very specific, actionable steps here. First, start saving as early as possible. Even a tiny amount matters so much thanks to compound interest. Second, absolutely take advantage of employer retirement plans, especially if they offer a 401k match. I mean, that is literally free money. Invest consistently over the long term and just ignore the short-term market noise. Work aggressively to reduce unnecessary high-interest debt, factor future healthcare expenses into your long-term budget right now, and finally, consider delaying retirement by just a few years if it's financially beneficial, because this can significantly boost your Social Security payouts. Small, consistent actions provide you with massive flexibility later in life.
Conclusion: a changing system.
To wrap things up, America's retirement system has fundamentally changed. With longer lifespans, expensive healthcare, and the extinction of the guaranteed pension, the responsibility for funding your future has shifted almost entirely onto your shoulders. Moving forward, financial security is going to depend heavily on your personal savings rate, economic conditions, public policy, and careful planning. But let's step back from the spreadsheets for a second. Retirement isn't just a financial metric. It's deeply human. It's about dignity. It's about independence. It's about finally having the time and ability to enjoy the years you have spent a lifetime working so incredibly hard toward. It's a well-deserved resting period that every worker should have access to. Which leaves us with this final, profound question. Can Americans still retire comfortably under the current rules, or does the entire retirement system need major structural reform? I really want to hear from you on this one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. How are you planning for the future? And if you found this explainer helpful and want to keep making sense of the complex economic issues shaping our world, be sure to like and subscribe for more in-depth explainers. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.